is Constantine, and with John, Oliver, and Charmaine, we are going to present our social action project, Walk My Mile. The four of us currently study at Queen Mary in London, and we all share the same concern. Queen Mary sits in the heart of Marlene. Still, many students live in their own world, their own bubble. We have become disengaged with our local community. The four of us feel it is time to stretch our hand and reach out to our local community, tie connections with our neighbours, and impactful students' involvement and greater community cohesion, the issues that move us the deepest in the area: child poverty and cultural division.
One solution we have to this problem is to implement a sports programme using students from the sports societies to coach young people in the community from various schools around the area. This would then let young people have access to the facilities in the universities they might not have had access to before, but also bring students out of the university bubble into the local community to implement it that way. We would use a variety of sports to highlight the facilities that the university has to offer, which would then get more young people into sport that might not have been able to afford it in the first place.
Growing up in East London, I not only got the joy of witnessing the Olympics at my doorstep, but I've also got to see an array of cultures right in front of me. East London has become very multicultural, and we want to bring back a kind of community sense with that. So aside from the sports programme, we are also going to run a showcase. And in the showcase we are going to exhibit an exhibition, a photographic exhibition, and our exhibition is going to be different in that we are giving the cameras to the community, we are giving the cameras to different people in the community to really get a sense of what Tower Hamlets as a borough is to each individual, and through that find similarities as well as differences. And also we'll be promoting culture with different food types at that event. We're also going to run a short film, and with the film we are going to be asking people open questions, in which they can offer their interpretation of how they feel to live in Tower Hamlets. Tower Hamlets is a very historical community and a historical borough. Our showcase event will be held in the People's Palace in Queen Mary University, and even the building at that is a historical building, and we want to really represent the history of Ireland and the social and the cultures that exhibit in today's Ireland.
One of the things that we found when we were looking around the local area was that the local sports facilities were not always used as much as they could do, and we wanted to promote health and well-being through that. 53% of the children in the local area, for the 2009 statistic, were classes in poverty, and in Tower Hamlets being quite a big area, that's quite a lively statistic, and we think that we can include the children in kind of community activities where they can afford to go for free, as opposed to just like a PE lesson that's run by state government. And also living outside London, I've noticed that there's lots of multiculturalism that has to be kind of binded together in one big event.
So through Walk My Mile, we want to emphasise community linkage beyond postcodes, promote culture and break down barriers.
Do you expect you're doing any studying? Well, I'm not sure, but just doing this is my impression. My name's Trevor Payers. I'm at the Charitable Foundation, who also supports this initiative. There's a lot in there, I think. My impression is there's an awful lot in there. And my concern, I think, would be, the idea is to be very open with things, would be you might be taking on more than you should. It might be better to focus in on one element there, or maybe a couple of elements there. But I mean, I could be wrong, but there's a little bit of points to give feedback to.
One of the team members probably elaborate more after it, but it's not going to be just us with the sports programme in particular. Queen Mary has loads of societies, and a lot of them are sports societies, and people want to do charitable work. So we are going to reach out to our students' union and find volunteers to help us through this programme.
Yes, half of certain sports teams in our university are qualified coaches for their sport. So we're thinking to use them as volunteers to help these children have free tennis, football, basketball lessons during the year. It's only a few hours a month, and rolling through the students, it's not too much time over the year.
So it's
where are the participants going to come from? How will you contact young people and children to be able to?
We're going to go through schools mostly, offering after-school activities on a Thursday evening, for instance. It allows parents to have a bit of free time as well, which is not too bad, and just providing in general an opportunity for the children to play sports with their fellow comrades from their schools, but also other schools in the area.
What sort of numbers are you hoping to reach?
We're going to contact first our sports teams at university, see how many volunteers we can get, and from there we can decide how many children can actually participate.
In terms of what you four would think of as success with the project, what sort of numbers would you feel like, yeah, we've done something really special? Don't need an answer, think about it.
Could I just ask, sorry?
No, please go ahead.
Just around the schools, it's September now. Are we on the back foot, just focusing on schools, or should there be other areas that you look at, possibly community centers or other that are looking for this type of activity? We're just, it's September, we're going to finish it up by December, January, or actually it's going throughout the year this year. That might be a little bit late for this next term.
Can I ask a question? Is this in school time or is this an after-school club?
It's an after-school activity.
After-school activity on a weekly basis? It will be the same day each week or a month?
It will be based on a weekly basis, and we might have maybe a few days a week with different sports, one day, maybe a few days later, Thursday or Monday, for example. Probably involve local churches and the East London Mosque and other areas that are around, and kind of bring them all together, and maybe have once a month on a Saturday a kind of a bigger event, so kind of a community sports day that could be run alongside for a few months.
In principle, it sounds like a really good idea, but also like be careful you don't over-program, which is what I mentioned, because I think just if you just got a couple of different sports clubs running a couple of afternoons a week regularly through over several months, that would be amazing. I think sharing facilities is brilliant. Well done.
People across the further benches also please ask questions or of course.
Were you thinking of primary age children or secondary age or both?
Secondary.
Secondary. But I'm thinking you might get more benefit from primary age, introducing them to sports and getting them motivated. Secondary schools may already have some sports facilities that they can access.
What we wish to achieve also by getting volunteers from the university to coach these children was to make them more familiar with the university settings, and perhaps if they hadn't thought about it before, to apply to university. It would also be a sort of a mentoring if they had any questions about studies in university. So
a question over here and then a question over there. Yeah, so Hannah and then Claire and then myself.
I really like that you're kind of making use of the sort of resources that you have, so reaching out to the sports societies at the uni, you've got the kind of sports facilities there. That all makes a lot of sense. I think that's a brilliant idea. I just wondered whether with the other things that you've talked about, so the photography exhibition and the filming, whether you've got kind of other partners in mind and sort of facilities and resources at the university that you'll be able to make use of, whether you've thought about kind of partners and ways of delivering that aspect of the project.
We definitely want to be in contact with the Photography Society in university, and also something that Queen Mary offers is a cultural fund. So if you're having an event that displays any sort of culture or is a new start-up event, they do assist you, student union assist you, maybe the printing or posters, and they give you a lump sum, so that could be very helpful for us.
I think there's also a lot of confidence that people who previously volunteered at Queen Mary and people coming into university for the first time will want to get involved with something around the freshers period. So I think that's a great chance to get this campaign on the road.
I was going to highlight the same point as that. You might want to think about how you're going to bring the culture and community side with the photography together with the sport, just so the whole project has kind of like a running theme and running objectives for both sides of those together, and they're kind of more in unity, because there's maybe the danger of having the sports going in that direction and then the photography and the culture going in a different direction, and you must make sure that you bring them together. You might want to get the kids to maybe use the cameras to take photos and design the posters for the sports events or something like that, just to bring it together.
Okay.
Oh, I love the idea, and I think you're right, that students are a big untapped resource. I wonder if you looked at other universities and how they've successfully done this. I know Student Hubs is that supports universities' broken relationships with students in the community, so they're worth taking a look at. And also, are you going to be talking to the youth clubs and see what's already out there and where your provision fits in?
Well,
I was just going to say, there's already some organisations that we know of that we are looking to speak to, so reach out. I know, and that's why we're in secondary school children as well, because it would just be easier to build links, because we already know organisations that already work with school children and secondary school children.
It might be worth just a few people shouting out some pieces of advice, actually, just as they move forward, because they've only had an afternoon's worth of planning for this. I should have added.
Well, I'll introduce you to the Student Hubs people, because I think this is
brilliant. Okay.
We can also introduce you to a former colleague who's working on legacy with the London Mayor and legacy of the Olympics, who I'm sure will be able to have great contacts for you.
There's a lot of potential definitely out there in Westfield to harness those resources that would have kind of been left abandoned for a while.
You should talk to your council as well, because I'm sure they'd be really willing to support this. I know I would if it was students in Camden.
Bethnal Green Library had an exhibition, I think last year, which had like pictures from the old East End. So you could use some of that as a stimulus, or like if you're giving people cameras and stuff to document.
Because we're looking to document as well both the aspect of what Mile End and Tower Hamlets represents for people, but also to document their own lives and make the connection between the students' lives and the community life, everyday life.
Is there anything else you want to share that you've learned from the audience that you might take forward in your planning?
Well, quite a few things, I think.
What's ideas?
Suggestions we're thinking about, definitely something that has to be addressed, because there's many youth groups out at the moment, but I think from what I've seen, it would be good to get everything in the local parks done, because a lot of the time when you walk through, they seem to be quite empty. I think maybe sometimes people are scared to go through at certain times, maybe after 7, or they don't want their kids to go out to the park at a certain time. So I think in the East End, it would be good to really show the bright image.
I should also add that there will be a more detailed assessment of the risks and opportunities from these ideas, and some of the risks highlighted will be unpacked further. But thank you very much.